Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 303. My name is Brad Rowland. I am joined today by my good friend, Scott Coleman. Scott, it's the first episode of December. We are into the holiday season in full force. How are you, my friend?
Hello, Brad. It is good as always to see you, and I hope everybody out there had a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And we're making progress into the off season as of recording this, or when folks are listening. We are about a week away from the winter meetings, which get started on December 7th, and maybe we'll get some more activity there. We have seen a little bit more activity across the league. Of course, the Braves made a couple moves early as well. So fingers crossed, a busy couple weeks ahead before kind of everything goes silent around Christmas and New Year's. But we have about 3.5 weeks to hopefully get some action in before things quiet down again.
Yeah, we might do like a winter meetings preview later this week if nothing else is going on. But we are a week away from that, like you said, and the draft lottery happens then, which the Braves are actually invested in this time around. That's an odd feeling that we'll talk about. But by the way, if anybody missed it, Scott did a great interview with our old friend Carlos Collazo at Baseball America that dropped on the feed during Thanksgiving week. Good prospect content, farm system rankings, and all kinds of things that I am not equipped to talk about as well as my old friend Carlos is. So that was good to listen to passively on the road, as I'm sure many of you did as well. Also, I'll say this. You and I, a couple of weeks ago, gathered to do kind of a relief pitcher market primer, perhaps. It was like, hey, here's all the guys the Braves might look at in the river market. And we did that one first. And we kind of said that on the show, even that night, like, hey, this might move quickly. Let's go ahead and do this now. And we were prescient in that one time. We're usually not prescient, Scott. We were at that point in time because the Braves then went out and signed Russell Iglesias. Talked about it shortly after that. Today, we're going to do the starting pitching version of that discussion as our first show in December. And I like to say that was an original idea that we had, but also was kind of prompted by what happened the last several days in the market. While most guys have not signed yet still, I know that's your favorite thing. It has happened. There's some stuff has happened, and most of it's been geared toward the pitching market. So basically, in response to two things that have happened, we're doing this. One of them I have to just throw your way because we've talked about Sonny Gray for years, and I really kind of thought it might happen this time around, Scott. It didn't happen this time around. Sonny Gray is not going to be a Brave. He's going to Boston instead. Your thoughts?
Brad, we're going to keep the dream going. And if folks are new, it's a bit. I don't actually think Sonny Gray is like a top 3 pitcher on a couple people were like,
yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's fine.
He is my Charlie Morton. To you,
that's exactly right. I actually almost made that joke on Twitter the night that it happened. So Gray got traded. If people didn't know this, Gray got traded to Boston. A lot of money went back to St. Louis to get him to go to Boston. It's not a Braves thing, so we won't talk about it much more beyond that. But we did genuinely think it was interesting to talk about because Sonny Gray is very Bravesy, and I know you like him. He's been your white whale. But also, like, it wasn't shocking that he didn't come to the Braves. It was a situation where we were, like, deciding he was definitely coming. But it does make for good podcasting. It's a good bit, to your point.
The only thing I will say about the Sonny Gray trade, and then we will move on, although you can bet if he becomes a free agent again in a year.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Subscribe, follow, hit the bell, because we will talk about Sonny Gray in 2026. But until then, I think the Braves equivalent in that trade was probably something like J.R. Ritchie and Bryce Elder, maybe even like Hurston Waldrop and Bryce Elder in terms of what Boston got or had to give up to St. Louis in order to get Gray. That's a pretty steep ask for a pitcher in his late 30s and is still, even with the money coming over, is still making $21 million. So I wasn't like beside myself at the offer. If Boston would have given up a prospect in the 20s, a 17-year-old who hasn't even stepped foot in America yet to play professionally, then it would have been like, man, that would have been nice to do Gray for basically just nothing but money. But I don't fault Alex for not giving up Waldrop or Ritchie or one of the pitchers in the upper tier of the minors to get Sonny Gray.
I agree. It would have been, I thought it was reasonable what Boston did. There was a moment when you and I and Steven and Sean were all kind of texting back and forth like, man, they got to be getting a lot of money, right? And they did. It was $20 million going back to St. Louis, going to Boston from St. Louis, which made it kind of make sense for all parties. It wasn't like a grand slam, to your point, to where we were all kicking ourselves. But that happened. A guy crossed off the board that was a potential for the Braves. And then a few days later, I thought it was funny as well. The only team that probably wasn't hibernating for Thanksgiving on Wednesday before Thanksgiving was the Toronto Blue Jays, because they don't have the same Thanksgiving that we do. And that was the team that made the big splash on Wednesday night. I felt bad. I momentarily felt bad for people that cover the Blue Jays. I'm like, man, Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, major transaction. I would have been furious if the Braves made a move Wednesday night. But then I thought it was Toronto. But anyway, it's a big deal. Dylan Cease, another guy who we've talked about a lot on this podcast, maybe as much or more than Sonny Gray. 7 years, $210 million. Now there's some deferrals in there, it seems like, but still, that's a big old pile of money for him to go to Toronto. And a guy that I think we said on the show was maybe the big ticket, big money guy we thought was at least like somewhat plausible for the Braves. Yeah. Like he felt like kind of a Bravesy guy, even though it was such a big contract that it was maybe not likely. For that price, I don't think Alex was ever going to go there. But hey, that's a lot of money for Dylan Cease, and maybe the number one guy off the board. Like he was certainly in the top 3 for sure.
I think Cease will get the most guaranteed money of any pitcher. I don't think Framber Valdez gets $210 million. I don't think Ranger Suarez or Michael King or Zach Gallen, who we are all going to talk about here in a couple of minutes on the show, are going to get close to $210 million. And man, it's a lot of money. Good for Dylan Cease. One more time, I just want to hammer home one more thing. Front offices do not give two poops about a pitcher's ERA. In terms of evaluating, we always hear ERA, it's an older metric. I get it. They've been doing it for 120 years. That's, at the end of the day, how many runs a pitcher gives up. That is his ERA. But Cease was not, what do you have, an ERA in like the mid-4s last year?
Yeah, 4.5. People kept saying that over and over again when in reaction to the move, for sure.
So wanted to make that note. And then, hey, good for Cease. He's a local Georgia product. He has been the pillar of health. He makes like 32 starts every single year. If there was a pitcher in free agency the Braves were going to go all out on, I could see it being Cease because he's local and he's highly durable, which is something this team needs. But I do not blame Anthopoulos for not beating 7 years and $210 million.
Yeah, I do believe if he's not number one in starts made over the last 5 seasons, he's like in the top couple. Actually, no, he is number one. I just checked. He's number one in all of baseball in starts made the last 5 years. So yeah, durable. But another deal that's like, while it's not our money, I would have been fine if the Braves gave out that contract because it's not our money at the end of the day. I do understand more than maybe Braves fans seem to, the reticence to give out that kind of length more than the money itself. For me, it's not dollars, it's length on pitchers. And I think Alex probably feels the same way. But hey, a lot of money for him. Also could be worth it. I think he's really good. And that kind of prompts us again to kind of do this. At some point, we're going to do the show anyway. But because those two things happen, it's like, you know what? Maybe this market starts to speed up a little bit. And before that happens, a little bit of a primer today. One thing we should at least do, and I'm telling myself this more than even you, Scott, quickly, we should talk about what the Braves have on their roster in the same way we did with the bullpen. It's both better than what they had in the bullpen and also still very uncertain. And we've made the point a million times, but I'm sure we have new listeners. Our general podcast stance, and Scott can correct me if he wants to, is that you simply do not only need 5 starting pitchers. Everyone loves to rank their top 5 starting pitchers and say that's the rotation. Yes, on opening day, you probably will use 5. You need 7, 8, 9, 10 plus starting pitchers.
Yeah.
So if you have your 5 you like, that's cool. You still need more. That's me talking. And I have said, and I'll let you weigh on this as well, I've said even with, yes, if you give the rosiest possible interpretation of health for the Braves' current roster, they have a rotation that's really good. But if you take one step away from that and realize it takes more than 5, 6 guys, they do need more. And my stance is that the Braves need a starting pitcher, a real one, at least one, if not more than one, between now and April.
They need to add a starting pitcher who you would feel at least somewhat comfortable giving the ball to in game 2 of a playoff series and game 3 of a playoff series, a needle mover. And we're going to cover a pretty wide spectrum of pitching targets tonight. Some of them absolutely fit that bill. Some of them are maybe more questionable. But Alex Anthopoulos said at his end of season media availability that he wants to add a starting pitcher and that it's a priority. I think he kind of reemphasized that again at the GM meetings a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, man, sure. Like if the Braves hit the jackpot and get 90 combined starts from Sale, Schwellenbach, and Strider next year, guess what? The team's probably winning 90 plus games and is going to just cruise to the playoffs. Maybe they get another 25 plus from Waldrop. And I mean, that's probably not going to happen. And if it does, then we'll be doing a lot of happy podcasts over the summer, Brad. But yes, they need to add someone and somebody of note if this team wants to be really serious about having depth to navigate not only 6 months, but then having 2 or 3 guys in a playoff series you can feel good about.
19 pitchers made a start for the Braves last year. Now, granted, that was a franchise record. It won't always be 19. I'm not being silly, but you need a dozen or more. Guys like Eric Fetty, Carlos Carrasco, Cal Quantrill, Davis Daniel, Scott Blewett, all made starts with the Braves last year. I know it was I know it was a lost season. I understand. But even in a normal year, when things go fairly well, you need 12, you need 13. Like it is so that's the preface to say they do need more. Quickly, they do have some names that you like. Of course, Chris Sale has been Cy Young level since he arrived in Atlanta. He's the number one guy on the team. He's awesome. Cool. Special Schwellenbach has been an ace when he's been pitching. He's coming off the fractured elbow that happened at the end of June. Seems to be on track, but somewhat of a question mark. I feel good about Schwellenbach, but he's coming off an injury. Spencer Strider was not great last year. He did end the season better than he started it, but not a question huge. But like he's gonna pitch in the rotation if he's healthy. We know that, but he's not the guy he was 3 years ago right now. I don't think. And then Hurston Waldrop was awesome last year in 10 appearances, 56 innings, but that's all it was. It's 10 appearances, and I think he'll be in the rotation. He looks great, former first-round pick, etc., but not a guy that I'm writing in like full-blown permanent ink. So those are the 4 guys that you are comfortable with, I would guess. Any thoughts on those guys quickly?
I mean, yes, if healthy, I think you feel good. I do think with Waldrop, we've seen pitchers be effective and then not be as effective. Right. Yeah. But yes, I mean, if healthy, I feel good. I think especially the improvements that Waldrop made throughout the course of last year, throwing strikes, working off that splitter that's so nasty, establishing his fastball, which was a big question. And then the other 3, if healthy, I feel good about. I think for Spencer Strider, I mean, he is one of the true, if he's good, man, this team, if Strider can get back to anything close to what he was a few years ago, the Braves ceiling is so much higher without even adding anyone. The ceiling is so much higher. Yep. But if he's more of just kind of inconsistent or just does not have the same bite to his pitches that he had before, or God forbid, the velocity continues to decline, then that gets scary. I mean, the Braves full stop need Strider to be good and healthy next year.
Yeah, so that's 4 guys, and you feel pretty good. Then you have the 2 guys who have been quality starters recently but have injury concerns. Grant Holmes, coming off of the no surgery rehab on his elbow. Could go well, could not. We don't know. Plus, could be a bullpen option. Grant Holmes has been in the bullpen before. That'd be totally reasonable to have him there again. We'll see. Ronaldo Lopez, 2 years ago, was awesome as a starter. Before that, was a reliever. Coming off shoulder surgery, missed basically all last season. We'll see. Could be in the bullpen, same thing. So those guys, I'm not saying you know nothing about Grant Holmes and Ronaldo Lopez, but you know enough to say they're not written in ink in the starting rotation. That'd be where I would put it at this point. Obviously, it's early in this process, but as of December 1, that's where I would be in the incomplete on both of those guys.
Yeah. No real way to say what you're going to get from Holmes or Lopez. If they're healthy, it would be terrific, to put it lightly. But those are pretty big ifs at this point. And then, just to kind of round out the group, AJ Smith-Shawver had Tommy John surgery in June. Everybody recovers from that differently, but I think at bare minimum, you're talking about 12 months.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe
all-star break at best, I would say.
And if you get Smith-Shawver and he's throwing the ball well in August and September, it'll be the Chip Carey, like making a trade without having to make a trade.
There we go.
You could have Smith-Shawver even in your bullpen if you want to bring him back slowly and have him work every couple of days instead of going and making a start every 5 days. And then there's the depth types. Joey Wentz got tendered a contract. Bryce Elder is still around. Jose Suarez got tendered a contract. And then you have some prospects who are in the upper levels of the minor leagues. J.R. Ritchie is somebody who could make his Braves debut in 2026. We saw Didier Fuentes, although Didier was not ready. He could also be in the mix, and a couple of others in the upper levels of the minors. So there are some names there. again, just to put a bow on this, Brad and I firmly think the Braves need to add a starting pitcher of some kind, but there is some depth here. Of course, we're in December, and it's amazing how fast pitching depth can vanish once the games get going.
Yeah, I was encouraged to hear Alex pretty plainly say they want to add a starter. Like he didn't even waffle. Usually Alex will do a little bit of a dance. He didn't really do that. He was kind of like, "Hey, we want to add a starter." I agree with you, Alex. Add a starter, whether it's a trade or a signing or whatever. And the rest of this podcast will be about who is available on the market. So from here on, we'll talk about some guys who are not in the organization. That was kind of the primer to say, hey, this is the situation. They need pitching, and we'll see what they add in the coming days. In a second, Scott, we'll dive into the free agents first, big names first, then maybe some trade names at the end of this conversation. We'll do all of that and more after a word from our partners.
I have a unique holiday gift idea. It is called Superpower because, Kratz, they care about you. It's a very unique health platform. It's new, and it finally gets you the answers that you need about what's really happening inside your body and what to do about it.
I got the answers. I'm on the journey of what to do about it. Why would I not want to give it to one of my loved ones in my life?
Give your loved ones something that actually lasts. That's right, Kratz. Better health and more time with you. If you go to superpower.com/gift, you get a free $49 premium gift box with your gifted membership. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Please mention FT to support the show. One simple lab test measures 100 plus biomarkers. We're talking hormones, vitamins, minerals, and so much more. You'll get a full health report and a personalized action plan built by clinicians, including nutrition, supplement, and lifestyle guidance. Get after it, FT fam.
Okay, Scott, the big name we thought was most likely is off the board with Dylan Cease in free agency. But there are still 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys who are projected to be potential like $100 million pitchers. Potential. They won't all get that probably, but we'll see. This is kind of in projection order, but you got Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Michael King, a podcast favorite, Zach Gallen, a local guy for you, Zach Gallen, Arizona, and then Tatsuya Imai. Is that where I'm going with? I have no idea how to say this man's name. My apologies to everybody involved. But the Braves do have a history. It's a long time ago now of going overseas. Should I even say his name? People don't like it even.
Shout out Kenshin Kawakami. Was that like late 2007, 2008, 2009? That was lifetimes ago at this point, Brad.
But they have done it. It was 2009. He was actually pretty good for a year, and then that was the end of that. But those are the guys who are basically projected by either Fangraphs or ESPN or MLB Trade Rumors to get in the $75 to $100 million range. I guess we'll go one by one because these are the bigger names. Framber Valdez is number one on all of these projections as far as money. Now that Cease is off the board, right? He's almost 33 years old, but he's been very good for a long time now and is durable. 121 starts the last 4 years. The only thing that people talk about him in a negative way is that he potentially crossed up his own catcher last year. That made some national attention. And when we talked about him last time, you and I, a couple weeks ago, that was like half the comments on YouTube was like, well, we can't sign him. He did. I get it, guys. We understand. He's good at pitching. So, but it seems like it's going to be a 5-6 year deal in the 25 to 30 plus $1 million range. That's a lot of money. If that's the price, I kind of don't think it's going to happen. But hey, thoughts on Framber Valdez?
I mean, my thoughts on Framber Valdez is that for a veteran lefty with a long track record of success, given the expected cost and years of commitment, I would imagine that Ranger Suarez is more likely than Framber Valdez. And hey, if the Braves want to go out and sign Framber Valdez, awesome. Like we'll happily take this guy. He has been the model of consistency, especially from the left side. 3.2 ERA over 121 starts the last 4 years. I mean, that is about as good as it gets, short of being one of the true aces of all aces in this league. That being said, I think like the big market teams are probably going to be in on Valdez pretty heavily. But if Ranger Suarez is available at maybe $10 million less per season, we all know Alex Anthopoulos has kind of like this cap right now in the clubhouse of $23 million for Matt Olson and Austin Riley, and Acuna will be closer to that. I think that's what Chris Sale is making this upcoming year. Strider's going to get up to $20 million. If he wants to kind of maintain that level of payroll in terms of individual salaries, I think Ranger Suarez is more likely than Valdez, because I just don't see Valdez getting anything less than $28 to $30 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, some of the projections, 5 for 150, 6 for 168 is what ESPN had on Valdez. I'd be surprised. I wouldn't hate it, to be 100% clear. I would not hate it. I'd rather go shorter. So 5 would be better than 6 on a guy who's already in his 30s. Like that's most of the guys on this list. But yeah, I'd be fine. Suarez, the projections are in a more reasonable range. 5 for 115 is a number that's out there on MLB Trade Rumors. 5 for 130 at Fangraphs. 4 for 92 at ESPN. That is much more in the traditional Alex zone. I will also just say this, as I forgot to mention earlier, Alex has still never given out a big money deal on a starting pitcher in free agency. The one guy he has paid long-term was Strider, and that is an internal buyout, some arbitration years move. That's a different kind of thing. Also, that's still not at the level of this type of money on an annual basis. So the first time he does this will be the first time. Like he's never done this before. With that said, I think after talking to you a little bit, this is a guy in Suarez. If these numbers are right, Scott, would you be interested in Ranger Suarez at the projection numbers?
Yeah. So I will say this. If, let's say, MLB Trade Rumors is correct on Ranger Suarez and gets 5 years and $115 million, so that's 5 years at $23 million per year, I would be ecstatic about that deal. Now, maybe it's because Ranger Suarez has just absolutely dog-walked the Braves for years at this point, and you'd be stealing him from a division rival in Philadelphia. But Suarez is he's so good, so consistent. He's 30 years old, so he's not too old where you start to worry about a real fall off. Over the last 4 years, Ranger Suarez has a 3.38 ERA, a 3.54 FIP. I think he would also benefit from an improved infield defense with the Braves compared to what he had with the Phillies. And I mean, he has been so consistent. He's also a postseason performer. Suarez has performed very well in the playoffs his entire career, often against Atlanta, much to our chagrin. So yeah, I mean, of every player we're going to talk about tonight, I know it's a significant money investment. I know that you would lose a draft pick for signing Suarez. But if we got the push alert tomorrow morning that the Braves signed Suarez to 5 years and $110, $115 million, I would be ecstatic. I sit down when I record this podcast, Brad, but I would be jumping up and down and blowing out our audio and making life hell for you.
I do think, I agree. I would like it. I do think he's also a little bit younger than he's only 30 and just turned 30 in August. So if you want to go a little longer, that's not as concerning, potentially. Not as durable as Valdez or as Cease. His cap has been like 160 innings in his career. I don't know if that's a firm cap, but like he's missed some time in each of the last 4 seasons. He's not pitched every single week, which is no disaster seasons. Like he's pitched enough, but it's not like he's been a total workhorse either.
I was looking into this a little bit more. Like Suarez missed time last year. He had a groin contusion because he got hit by a comeback fastball. Like
it's more the Chris Sale zone of like weirdness than like actual.
Yes, he had. I think he picked up a mild forearm strain when pitching in the World Baseball Classic like 3 years ago, but that went away. There's nothing, at least without being able to see his medicals, there's not chronic shoulder problems here where it's like, dear God, we could be one pitch away and all of a sudden that contract is going up in flames.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he's elite at getting soft contact. Like he's not a huge strikeout guy, but like it's effective. Like there's no smoke and mirrors here. Like his ERA is 3.38, like you said, FIP at 3.5. Like it's not a blow up situation. Like I think it's a relatively projectable skill set that should last for a while. And if it's 23 million a year, 24 million a year for 5 or less years, I would be in on that. Just because I think he's meaningfully. I never want to use the word safe on a pitcher. Pitching's not safe.
No such thing.
Projectable is what I will use instead of the word safe. So yeah, we're in on that, at least at the number that's been bandied about. We'll see if that's the actual number, because Cease came in above his number, for example. He's the only guy we have a number on so far. The next two guys are a little bit lower on the projections, but they're in the kind of a tier by themselves. Michael King, Zach Gallen. Very different profiles. Zach Gallen is like a former top 5 Cy Young guy multiple times, like really, really, really good. And last year was not particularly good. Michael King, more of a late bloomer, was a reliever at one point. Innings were down last year, but since he's become a starter, he's been basically awesome. So do you have they're not exactly the same situation, but a lot of the projections are very similar, like a $20-ish million a year profile for these guys. Do you have a preference between the two, Michael King versus Zach Gallen?
So both for King and Gallen, MLB Trade Rumors projected 4 years and $80 million. So $20 million a year. That's a lower financial investment than a Ranger Suarez or a Framber Valdez, and much less than Dylan Cease. But they also have more questions than those guys. I actually sent out a poll. I did a survey on Twitter on Sunday, and I was a little surprised. So I said, if they got their projected contracts, and that's a big if, but if Suarez, King, and Gallen got their projected contracts, 4 years, $80 million for King and Gallen, and 5 years and $115 million for Suarez, which pitcher would you have the Braves take? And to my surprise, the winner of that poll was Michael King at 45% of the vote. I wouldn't have guessed that. Maybe I was off, but
I wonder. I'm wondering out loud. I wonder if there's a little bit of anti-Phillies in your sample, considering Braves fans follow you on Twitter, or perhaps people. I think that maybe King has the highest upside of the three as well. Maybe like if you look at just the numbers the last 2 years, for example, since he became a starter, he has the best numbers of the three. His ERA is 2.9 or so in the last 2.5 years. And if that's the big shiny number that you're aware of, I don't know if Braves fans did the research on this. Also, it's not $100 million. You know what I mean? That extra digit on the number tends to swing things. So if they were looking for him versus Suarez, perhaps the 100+ number threw them off as well. But hey, that is interesting. I'm surprised by that too.
And I really like Michael King. And if folks feel like, where have I seen Michael King pitch? He pitched game 1 of the wild card round a year ago against the Braves. And I know that team was just dead and running on fumes, but I mean, that was about as bad as I've ever seen an Atlanta team perform offensively in a playoff game. But, the big problem in question with King is, can he stay healthy? Mm-hmm. Because he's basically had one healthy full season in the major leagues. That was 2024. He was legitimately one of the best pitchers in baseball. But this past season, he only threw 73 innings. He had a pinched nerve and then a knee problem. But when he's been on the mound, Michael King has been really good and really effective. So that is kind of the opposite of what we have talked about for the last month and a half on this podcast, of bringing somebody with a track record of durability, as much as that means in modern day baseball. King is not that. But you can also say, well, this guy doesn't have 1,000 innings on his arm and elbow and shoulder. Maybe he's going to be more fresh than your typical 30-year-old. And if you could get him at $20 million a year, I would also similarly be very happy if the Braves did that deal.
Yeah, I would personally, and we'll spoil this, I would personally do either of the, I think, did you use MLB Trade Rumors for your poll? That's what numbers we're using. I would do either Suarez or King right now. Sign me up. I probably would not do Gallen personally. Now, would I be offended if they did? No, I would not. Because it would, it's not my money. And it's not crazy. But Gallen is the interesting. They're all interesting in different ways. But Gallen, over 3-year sample size, was literally a top 10 pitcher in baseball before last year. From 2022 to 2024, Cy Young votes every season. I think he was like 7 or 8 in total Fangraphs WAR over 3 years. He was awesome with the Diamondbacks. Last year, to be very clear, it was not just an ERA problem. We already made fun of ERA as the only arbiter of success. It wasn't just ERA. Like, I saw the ERA, just to take you behind the curtain a little bit. We were doing the prep for this podcast. I saw the ERA and I was like, started to do my little half dig. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Next dig. Oh, that's not good either. Like, there was a lot of little things that were worrying to me about Gallen. He's only 30, but his stuff plus, which is an advanced metric, crashed. Like that tells you like just the pure stuff he's throwing was not the same last year. You pointed this out. His breaking ball stuff at Statcast was like literally one extreme to the other within one season. So I'll leave it to you. Like, what do you make of Zach Gallen? Like I'm reading everything about Zach Gallen after today, like all the projections, and everyone's kind of doing the shrug emoji right now. Like no one knows what to do with Zach Gallen, and that's the way I feel too. Honestly, thoughts?
He is an interesting buy low if you feel like you can get Zach Gallen back to what he was a couple of seasons ago.
Yep.
I will say, and I'm out here in Arizona, that if you walked around Chase Field and said, hello, Diamondbacks fan, would you like to sign Zach Gallen to a 4-year, $80 million contract? I bet 90% would say, absolutely not. In no world would I pay Gallen $20 million a year for the next 4 years. And that might just be fan opinion, and I'd be fascinated to know if front offices feel like they could fix him. Maybe Jeremy Hefner sees something with Zach Gallen and goes, "Oh my gosh, we can move. We can get some more break on his breaking balls and get more vertical drop on his. Whatever a pitching coach sees that people like you and I and those watching the show would never really have insight into. But to me, if that projection from trade rumors is correct, I would absolutely pass on Zach Gallen. I almost wonder if he might end up taking a 1-year pillow deal to try to get some value back. If it's a shorter deal, then
I was going to say if there's ever a team that might give a 1-year deal out, Scott, we cover that team. I think.
Yeah. That might be an interesting, of course, again, though you're only doing 1 year, you're giving up a draft pick in order to do it. That's a consideration. But yeah, clearly for me, unless it's like the most favorable contract of all time, I'm probably out on Gallen, and we'll let some other team take him. And if he's awesome, then good for you.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I don't. Like there are people that do these projections are smart. Full stop. Like they're not always right, but they're very smart. And they're probably hearing things too when they're doing their projections. So like it should not surprise anyone if he gets this kind of contract. Because there is a lot to like if you ignore last year, just results wise, and look at the arm and the history. He's only 30, he's not old. Like if there's something in there, and the Braves are actually known for this, like if they see something in a profile that they like, and it's like, hey, we could just kind of trim the corner here, and focus on this. They will do that, and they have done that with success in the past. So if maybe that's Zach Gallen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but my reaction would not be as negative as Diamondbacks fans, because you know this, Scott. Like you cover a team, there's a guy or two on that team that the fan base is lower on than they probably should be, like compared to like the rest of the league.
Of course,
that's what happens. And Gallen was bad last year. He was. I mean, that's the thing. Full stop. Like. ERA 4.8, FIP of 4.5, and not fake. Like that's the way he pitched. So if I'm a D-backs fan, it's like harder almost to have that guy come back at that number, having just seen it. The people like us who we see it, but we'd have to watch it every fifth day, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have to see the whole meltdown there. So alas, there you have it. But yeah, Gallen is interesting, but it sounds like you and I agree that we would prefer Suarez or King at their number over Gallen at his number.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll leave it there. Oh, by the way, as for I believe I'm going to go with Imai, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. 27-year-old right-hander. He was awesome in MPB last year. We've gotten zero buzz on the Braves being interested in these super high-dollar Japanese players. Doesn't mean they won't do it, but until there's buzz, like I'm inclined to just be like, maybe we'll have to wait and see. I know we talked about Kawakami earlier, but that's why we haven't talked about Imai more. Like I just don't think it's going to be what the Braves do. And I've tried to find any link anywhere, and no one's mentioning the Braves with him. So that's why we haven't talked about it a lot.
I think the early front runners, Giants, Mariners, maybe the Padres, like it's historically, and not every player is the same, but historically it's been the West Coast teams, California and Seattle, and then the New York teams have been where most Asian players come over and play in. Not always. There's exceptions, and I would love to get a pipeline open for the Braves, but it might be tough. I'm not holding my breath on that signing.
Well, and the projections also, like, for instance, trade rumors, which we've been using the most, 6 for 150 plus posting fee. So that would be the biggest deal Alex has given out by a ton plus posting fee. And that's a different, maybe, hey, he's younger, interesting pitcher, could be awesome. But similar with Yamamoto, we're like, we talked about when Yamamoto came over, like, hey, it'd be great to sign Yamamoto, and then he got $300 million. It's like, well, that wasn't going to happen, it seems like. We'll move on. All right, Scott, more to come. Names like Merrill Kelly, Chris Bassett, Lucas Giolito. Not quite as sexy, but certainly mid-rotation names and more coming up in just a second after word from our partners. All right, Scott. Let's continue with some less sexy names, but names that I think, at least there's a few more on this list that I think are like very clearly like third starter types, which may not seem awesome, but those are valuable pitchers. Like guys who are projected to make $17, $18 million a year. Like not going to blow you away, but certainly names that are interesting. And unsurprisingly, a couple of these names are older. Chris Bassett is one of these names. He'll be 37 before opening day. He's about as boring as possible, and I mean that in a endearing way. I appreciate this kind of pitcher, but he's been a 2+ win, as in wins replacement pitcher, every year since 2019. He just plugs along with an ERA of like 3.9 every year. He's a good pitcher, but he also, like last year, for instance, in Toronto, wasn't starting games by the end. Like, granted, Toronto was loaded and they made the World Series, but he's more of a 3-4 in a rotation. And that's all most of all these guys that are remaining are basically that pitcher. So thoughts on Bassett, and then I'll bring up the guy that I actually kind of love for the Braves next. His name is Merrill Kelly, but Chris Bassett first. Thoughts?
It would be boring. I think we would come on the show and say, look, he's durable, he's reliable, he's better than some of the other options the Braves have internally as their number 4 starter. But yeah, I mean, it goes back. Do I feel good about giving Chris Bassett the ball in game 2 or game 3 of a short series? Probably not.
I think he'd be fine in a game 3. This is more nitpicking. I think he is a 3 that you'd like to be your 4. Like on a great team, he's probably where you'd be like to be your 4. I do think he's pretty good. The upside is like non-existent though. Like his upside is like 3.6 ERA instead of 4.1. You know what I mean? Not sexy, but kind of in the late career Morton zone. Not that everything is Charlie Morton, but like I'm okay with giving this kind of pitcher an $18 million a year contract for 1 year. And that sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. Like for 1 year in baseball, this is what these guys get paid. That's what this kind of pitcher is worth on the market. That's just flat out what it is. All of these guys. So we'll go through
and
it.
And interestingly enough, that's where you and I disagree.
Yeah,
and that's good because we agree on a lot of things. But
correct.
If they sign Chris Bassett or Merrill Kelly or Lucas Giolito coming off an elbow injury or Tyler Mahle, like these types, okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm never going to be like super pissed that the Braves added, especially given the way the last 2 off seasons go. But it would be pretty like if I get that push alert, I'm going to be like, nah.
Okay. I do. And the thing is, I think, let me clarify my position. I'm not saying that's like an exciting, the only move you do thing with the starting rotation. I think I would like that more than you would and more than some would. But I also think that the Braves probably need to do a little bit more than that as far as like, they don't have to sign Suarez or King, but I would rather, as we'll get into later on, I would rather trade for Joe Ryan than sign Chris Bassett. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That kind of thing. I'm not saying that Chris Bassett's awesome. He's not. But if it's free agency, for instance, here's my counter. If it's Zach Gallen at market price or Chris Bassett at market price, Chris Bassett every time for me. I'd rather, if I'm going to pay the market on on that kind of pitcher, I'll take the shorter term guy. For it to be someone that I give 4 years to, 5 years to, I got to be convinced that they're a top, they're a real top of the rotation kind of level guy. Not necessarily an ace, but like I'm convinced of that with Raider Suarez. I'm convinced of that with Michael King when he's healthy. Zach Gallen, I'm not convinced of that. Chris Bassett's not that either. And I actually like Merrill Kelly more than Chris Bassett, which we'll get to in a second, I guess. But you're right. Like I would like that more, but I'm not saying the Braves need to just do that and then stop. Like I'm not on that train. I just would like that more. And more so, if the Braves did like 2 of those, I would be like more okay with it than not. But if all they do, I will, mark this down December 1st. If all the Braves do is sign Merrill Kelly or Chris Bassett, I won't hate it like some people will, but I won't love it either, even if it's kind of off brand for me.
Yeah.
Make sense?
The challenge is, sure, if you could get Chris Bassett for 8 million, 10 million, 12 million, and then add an impact hitter and add
that's just not the
2 or
market though. Like for these guys, like it tends
It's
to
not.
be like they maybe 12, like maybe one of these guys signs for 12 instead of 17. But look, the projections also, I mean, Bassett 2 for 38, 1 for 17, 2 for 34. Merrill Kelly 2 for 36, 1 for 21, 2 for 35. Like that's just the price of these. Charlie could get 20 million a year. I'm not saying it was an awesome contract, but that's what the market was going to pay out for this kind of pitcher. Even Tyler Mahle, who has like way less record of success, is projected to get $15 million a year. Like that's just what these guys cost. So, but your point is also valid. Like then don't do it. Okay, I'm okay with that. I just my entire I think I'm more of a contrarian sometimes to just say, yeah, these guys cost money. Like pitchers like this cost money, and you don't have to pay it. But it's not outrageous that he would get $17 million a year. It's really my main stance is like, it's okay. You're paying for the production but the other side is there isn't a lot of upside, and I would definitely agree with you on that. Like there are more upside ways to spend $17 million than Chris Bassett.
This middle tier is my breaking point of I would rather go make a trade because truthfully, there's only so many prospects in the system. I mean, after talking to Carlos at Baseball America and hearing his kind of objective take about the prospects in the system, there's like one or maybe two guys where I'd really feel the pain if the Braves traded them to get a Pablo Lopez or a Joe Ryan or any of
me. My longtime stance is basically trade anybody that's not Ronald Acuna. Right. Like he's the only guy like basically ever that I was like, nope, can't trade him. Even and obviously Baldwin now you can't trade, but like even Baldwin a year ago, I would have been wrong, but I would have traded Baldwin a year ago. I would have been fine with it.
If they got Garrett Crochet back,
yeah, like, for a top tier guy. I'm not saying you trade it for whatever, but like pick your favorite guy, whether it's Caminiti or whoever your number one person is. If it's a good enough player, I am, thank you for your service, Cam. We'll shake hands and that'll be the end of it. You're not on the level of guys we can't trade. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it would have to be somebody good. But yeah, so this group, this kind of middle tier, veteran, boring, can make 25 starts for you next year and won't kill you, but the upside is what it is. That's where I'm like, you know what, let's go trade. Let's go try to get one of the guys from the Twins or try to get Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals or see if you can kind of buy low on like Sandy Alcantara from the Marlins or someone who we probably won't even think of in this exercise that Anthopoulos is going to go get.
It is hard to do trade. It's easier on starters to do trades. Like we kind of just didn't even try to do trades on the reliever show because it's like good luck trying to figure out who's available and whatever. Yeah. We'll name some guys in a second on the starter market that are like either we know are available or like seem to be kind of available that make a lot of sense. And yeah, a lot of these guys that we just talked about briefly, like your Joe Ryan types or whoever, are better than Chris Bassett. They're better than Merrill Kelly. So that gives you the reason to do that. The last name I do want to mention, just because I already teased it a little bit, I like Merrill Kelly. I think more than most people do. He's old too, 37 on brand for me, but he is literally 14th in baseball in innings pitched over the last 6 seasons. Like he just pitches every freaking 5th day. Like he's just going to be out there and he's good. Like he doesn't walk anybody. Projections are like 3.8 ERA, FIP level. That's not great, but like I think Merrill Kelly is like. I would like to have Merrill Kelly in my rotation. Nobody's safe. Again, not going to use the word safe, but I like him more than Bassett. He's my favorite of the mid tier, and another guy I'd rather have than Zach Gallen at their price. Yeah. If you want, we do agree that the trade guys are more interesting. But as far as like, if you told me the Braves are going to do a Bravesy deal in free agency, which for me is a 1 or 2 year deal, he's the one for me. Unless someone's market falls apart. Like obviously if someone's just, if Michael King's market falls apart and he gets 1 year and $25 million, like I would prefer to do that for sure. But short of somebody like that, if Alex has an Alex deal, I would give it to Merrill Kelly. That's the guy.
This is getting into the range as well, where it's like, okay, maybe you sign Merrill Kelly for the rotation and it's awfully boring, but you save money. You go sign Ha-Seong Kim to play shortstop every day, and you go trade for an outfield DH bat who makes decent money, and you go out and sign a reliever or two, not an A-list guy because they have Iglesias, but that's kind of how, without knowing what kind of budget Anthopoulos has to work with, where it's kind of that shifting scale of, okay, we can add elsewhere, but it means we got to be boring in the rotation. As long as it's significant enough additions to round out the rest of the roster, then I would not lose my mind over Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because we might have new listeners that are not familiar with all of our takes. Like almost all of these are like if you spend elsewhere. Like one of the people from Foul Territory, they clipped something that we talked about last time you and I talked about. Basically the shortstop discussion with Mauricio Dubon, and essentially like emphasizing that it's okay to have that player be your shortstop if you spend the money somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's my general take on starting pitching too. If you were to do something like Merrill Kelly or Chris Bassett, cool. If you use your resources somewhere else to improve the club, like we agree on that wholeheartedly. And I think there is an argument. I'm not still going to make it, but I've seen it on the internet, and I think it's not crazy. I have poked fun at people that think the Braves are just like cool with a rotation because they have all these number of names or whatever. That's silly to me. But given that you do have some upside in your rotation with Swellenbach, Strider, Waldrop, like you could argue that a safer low ceiling option in the rotation in particular is not crazy to give you some more safety, even though I don't like that word. Because you do actually have a path to upside. Whereas in other areas, you may not have that same path to upside.
Yeah.
Alas.
Yeah, no, we said off the top, if the Braves get healthy seasons, I have a hard time seeing 30 starts from Chris Sale not being amazing. And similarly for
Schwellenbach too. Yeah, exactly.
And even Strider to maybe a lesser extent, which is kind of crazy because I also think he might, if he just figures some things out this offseason, Strider might somehow have the highest upside of all three of those guys, given Sale is getting up there in age. But yes, I mean, we say off the top, we'll say again, if the biggest improvements the Braves can have year over year is their stars performing like stars again, but we can't take that risk. Like they have to add this offseason, and it seems like they're going to. Otherwise, I have major questions about giving Iglesias and Dubon $22 million guaranteed 10 days into the offseason. I probably would have swung a little higher on that end, but I don't know. Probably a discussion for another day, and hopefully we never have to have it.
All right, in an effort to not make this a 2-hour podcast, I'm going to say some names that are free agents who the Braves could look at on the cheaper side to fill things out, basically. Lucas Giolito, Tyler Mahle, Brad Keller is like this year's Ronaldo Lopez. Is he a reliever? Is he a starter? Interesting pitcher, though, when he's been right. Zach Littell never walks anybody. Nick Martinez, who last year we laughed about because he took the qualifying offer. It was a weird situation. He's a free agent this year. Interesting starter. Cody Ponce, I kind of like coming back from he was in the KBO last year. Like I'm kind of fascinated by him. He throws hard. He was good in KBO. Who knows? I won't even name the two super old guys because it's just a meme at this point. I'm going to throw those guys out the window for now. Old friend Michael Soroka is a free agent. Our old colleague Eric Cole would just weep at his desk if they signed Michael Soroka back. And then you want to talk about boring. There's boring, and then there's Adrian Hauser. Adrian Hauser is actually like even more boring than Chris Bassett. So that's all my boring names. I know you hate all of those guys, so I'm not even going to mention any more to you.
Yeah, I would say if maybe one of these guys is floating around at the end of February and you could get him for
one more. Yes.
$5 million, assuming they have added somebody else to the rotation. Like I promise you could do a 6-man rotation for a while. You could have Waldrop open up in the bullpen and then make him a starter later in the year if you need him to limit innings. Like there's always a way to work around things. And like we always say, if there's a situation in July where we're doing a podcast and it's, all right, Brad, we have 7 guys throwing the ball, making starts so good. They're all healthy. They're all great. None of them need a rest. None of them need a fake injured list. I promise you, 1, we won't do that show because it'll never happen. And 2, if by some miracle we did do that show, we have that is the biggest non-problem in the world.
100%. Yeah. There's a great, my favorite movie is Ocean's 11. And there's a scene in the kind of getting the band together where it's Brad Pitt and George Clooney and they go back and forth. It says, and do you think we need one more? I think we need one more. Let's get one more. That's my general feeling on starting pitching. just sign another guy. Like if you have a chance to get one more guy on a decent price, go ahead and do it. And if that's Cody Ponce, if that's Michael Soroka, sure. My answer is yes. Sign more starting pitching. Acquire more starting pitching.
We have done a lot of podcasts, Brad. I would firmly have Ocean's 11 in my top 5 of all time. I wish we disagreed more, but that is a class. That is a
it's so
remote drop. If you're flipping channels on Sunday afternoon and Ocean's 11 is on, you can bet absolutely watching it every single time.
I'm embarrassed to say how many texts that I have with my friend Robbie Calland back and forth of just Ocean's quotes with no other context. That's all we ever talk about. Moving on. Last thing, and we're not going to try to project a trade. We're just not going to try to do that. But there are some interesting trade names. A very useful. I'm not going to act like I didn't reference this. MLB Trade Rumors, which we talked about a lot on the podcast already, did this like top 40 trade targets post, and they acknowledge in it like it's speculation and for speculation, etc. A lot of these guys I'm going to mention are on that list, but there are some interesting starting pitchers that could be gettable at a reasonable price and who are good. And by the way, full caveats apply here. The Braves could trade for somebody that's not on this list 1,000%. Alex is usually good for a spring on something that no one ever sees. Very possible. But you've seen the list, Scott. We'll go through it. But is there anybody that you want to talk about desperately as a trade target? Do you have a favorite, a pet guy that you're like your non-Sonny Gray division trade candidate now that Sonny's off the board?
Great question. I would say of all of the names listed on this trade list, and let's just breeze through them quickly and then we'll focus on a couple. So
by all means,
Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals, Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez from the Twins, Sandy Alcantara and Edward Cabrera from the Marlins, Brady Singer and Nick Lodolo from the Reds, Yusei Kikuchi and Jose Soriano from the Angels, Mitch Keller, Luis Castillo, who's been good for a long time with the Mariners.
It seems to always be like on the trade list. I don't even know why. He's awesome, but like it's like always like kind of out there as a potential guy they might trade. I don't know.
Jerry DiPoto works in weird ways.
That is why. Maybe that's why. Good point.
Him and AJ Preller, something about the initials. They just like to be weird. Freddie Peralta is like a borderline ace, like an actual ace with Milwaukee. I still don't see Milwaukee trading him. He has 1 year of contract control left. It would cost a lot.
Oh, that reminds me. I have to stop you. Did you see the fake trade that made the rounds this week? Somebody wrote a fake trade that involved the Braves getting Freddie Peralta. Did you see this?
I did see this.
It was a real outlet. It wasn't like a fake blog. It was a real outlet. And
it was MLB.com.
Okay. And granted, it was like supposed to be wild trades. It wasn't like it was being reported, but it was literally like 4 of the top 5 or something like that Braves prospects for 1 year. Freddie Peralta, because that's what it is. He's under contract for 1 season. That as much as I am trade prospect guy, that would be quite a price for 1 year of Freddie Peralta. That's all I'm saying.
Agreed. So that article is out there.
And made the rounds.
If you can get Freddie Peralta for less than half of the farm system, then great. But there's also on that trade rumors trade list, Kyle Freeland, who is with the Rockies. And then an interesting name is Luis Severino. Severino's been around. He was awful with the Oakland Sacramento A's last year, although his career was kind of revitalized with Jeremy Hefner in 2024 with the Mets. So maybe, although Severino's contract is pretty ugly. So my 2 favorite names are teammates on this list. I'll say the most obtainable players on this list, because I think Minnesota, no matter what they're saying, is going to do a rebuild of some kind. They're in massive debt. They're out of gas. Like they just don't have talent to compete in that division. But Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, both are criminally underrated nationally. I know that we've seen Pablo Lopez up close with the Marlins, but I would be very happy if either of them come over. They also have 2 years of club control as well. So that's not a small thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they have been a popular Braves internet trade partner for a while, and it makes sense. Both of those guys are not number ones, but like clearly top 3 in the rotation kind of pitchers. They're really good and won't be crazy expensive, which definitely is up the Braves' alley. I think Brady Singer is one for me with the Reds. It's like, if they want to do that, I'd be very interested. Mitch Keller is not famous, but like is quite good. It's the Pirates. People are. is what it is. Severino is actually fascinating to me because he was just clearly did not want to be with the A's, and the A's signed him to get to like the salary floor. Basically, that's what happened. He signed this big contract. I wonder if the A's, like how much the A's would pay financially to get off Severino's contract.
I bet quite a bit. And Severino spoke publicly about how bad the conditions were, like clubhouses in left field, like behind the left field wall in Sacramento. I mean, it was a minor league operation, and that's being kind. I mean, it was amateur hour in Sacramento.
They were quite literally playing in a minor league ballpark. So, I've always liked Yusei Kikuchi. Even I think was it last year he signed with the Angels. Like we talked about it on the show. I wanted him to Braves to sign him as a free agent, and I still would do that now. He's more of the boring variety, but not like incredibly boring. Like he has some strikeout stuff, has some upside, has been a 3-way pitcher before. If the Angels are going to be the Angels and sell relatively low on a guy who's still good, I would try to fleece the Angels because the Angels are fleeceable historically. I don't know. Castillo's the best pitcher on this list. Maybe not Peralta, but Peralta's just kind of a different category. I would love to trade for Luis Castillo. I don't know how much it would cost. I don't know if he's available, but I already alluded to it, but for whatever reason, he's just always on these lists, which means somebody somewhere thinks he might get traded. And I would love. He's my favorite of all of these guys. If he's actually available, he's the name I'd want. I would be calling Seattle on repeat to see if that's available.
The challenge is that Seattle is probably looking for major league ready talent in exchange. Because I mean, Seattle was a game away from the World Series. I mean, they were pitches away from the World Series last year.
Yes, certainly he would not be cheap at all.
The Braves don't have a good version of Vaughn Grissom who's kind of blocked, and they have to unload him, or they if they had like 3 young catchers instead of just like Baldwin, maybe they have Cal Raleigh, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that might be tough to thread.
Yeah, maybe that's a situation. You know what? I'm not going to get into it. I was going to say, can I interest you in a slightly used Michael Harris?
The one player here who I think has legitimate front end rotation upside, he's been good, not great, is Mackenzie Gore with the Nationals.
Yeah.
The challenge with Gore, of course, is that he is in the division and he would not be cheap. I mean, I would love to get my hands on Mackenzie Gore, but I don't think Washington wants to give him within the division. Although I would say at the end of the day, you want to get the best prospect return possible. And I mean, honestly, the Braves are just as much at risk in that deal, because if you trade Cam Caminiti, which is probably what you'd have to give up to get Mackenzie Gore at this point, if Cam Caminiti becomes a legitimate ace, guess what? You're going to have to face that guy for 6+ years, and you might only have Gore for, I think he has 3 more years of control.
Yeah, I mean, former top 5 pick in the draft. I think he's only 26, he'll be 27 before the season starts. So he's way younger than most of the guys that we've talked about today. That would make it interesting. This is nothing groundbreaking here, but certainly a bunch of interesting names. One more time, Alex tends to go off of the board of names who are not on lists. Yeah. That's tends to be the modus operandi for this front office. But to bring it full circle, it's harder to talk more about trade stuff than free agents. I think, and we both have said this. I know Sean and Steven have as well, that trades are still undervalued and how the Braves can add to the roster in multiple different ways. And I get why. It's just hard to talk about trades. It just is. But same thing with shortstop. Same thing with power bat, that they're trying to add one for DH outfield or whatever, and starting pitching. It doesn't have to be a free agent. It just doesn't. Now, shortstop's harder, obviously, because those guys are just impossible to get most of the time. But particularly with the either outfield DH spot and then starting pitching, trade should be part of the calculus. And I'm confident with Alex, he's not just going in saying we have to sign free agents. Trades are very much on the board for this front office. They always are.
Oh, if I had to bet today, I would lean heavily towards a trade of some kind instead of a signing. You do have to give up prospects of some kind in a trade versus signing a free agent. You lose, if you sign one of the big free agents, you lose your Drake Baldwin PPI pick at the end of the first round. But that's all a trade. But again, you can also control salaries much easier in trade than in free agency. And that's all part of the calculation. And hopefully in the next 2 months, it ends up being a good calculation. And we feel like the Braves squeeze the most out of however much money they have to spend.
Two more things that I should get off my chest because I will explode if I don't. Number one, as much as we talk about salaries and fitting in the structures and all those things, my mode is the Braves should be spending more than they spent last year, like by a lot. The Braves should be spending money. We know they're the one team in baseball where it's not even conjecture. We know their books. We can see their books. They should be spending at a top 5 payroll level. They should be. And they were not last year. So that spending money is part. You don't just spend it to spend it, but using that money effectively is important. But spending should be happening, whether it be a trade or free agency. That's number one. Number two, I don't particularly care about the qualifying offer prospect. I mean, draft pick stuff that they're going to. It matters a little, but I tend to think it's overstated. Maybe that's kind of my trade every prospect thought. But if that's the only holdup in signing someone, it shouldn't be a holdup in my opinion. It's more of a small part of the calculus for me. But I also say that to say, like, one question to you here, Scott. If it's the difference between signing Ranger Suarez and not, do you care about the prospect? The draft pick they would lose? Because for me, I just don't. I'm sorry.
I don't care. I am not actively just trying to boot that pick because that would be
Agreed.
foolish. But if it means that you can sign Ranger Suarez or Michael King to a deal that makes sense, or I mean, hell, we don't think Framber Valdez is real, but yeah, sure. One of the hitters who have a qualifying offer, that doesn't seem likely, but yes, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a free pick. Like, this is a free square for the Braves.
That's also the case. They got this pick because Drake won Rookie of the Year, which they could not have projected. Even if it was very possible, they couldn't have said a year ago, "Hey, Drake's definitely going to win Rookie of the Year," on a team with Sean Murphy on it, by the way. And that still happened. So that was cool. It's free money, to your point.
And the Braves are going to have a significant draft bonus pool, no matter what. With the Baldwin pick, it'll be worth about $3.5 million. But if the Braves finish or land a top 6 pick in the draft, and we'll know that in a week, even if they're the 6th pick, I believe the slot money is like $9 million this year. And if they were to move into the top 3, that could be as much as like $12 million, 11, 10 million. So that's also maybe part of this decision for the Braves, is knowing how much money they'll have to spend. But to answer your question, if they can add a qualifying offer free agent to a reasonable deal that would make this team better, I will. No problem. It was a free pick. Give it away or give it back to the league. They will be just fine.
Yeah, we are on the same page. All right, Scott, I've kept you long enough. Late into the evening, early in the morning, on a December 1st Monday. That's all we have. This could literally be a 2-hour plus podcast. Like, we have a lot more we didn't talk about. That's the nature of the beast here. But if things, as always, if you are a new listener or if you've just forgotten, if we get a rumor, a real one, we'll talk about it. If we get a signing, we'll always talk about it a lot. If we get a trade, same thing. But this is kind of meant to be an overarching primer. We can't touch on everybody in total depth. I'm sure I could give you 10 more minutes on Ranger Suarez right now. I'm not going to do it, but that's what we have today. I won't make comments about NFL teams because my team is terrible and your team is falling apart, as you texted me today. My college team lost in relatively brutal fashion yesterday. It hasn't gone well outside of baseball. So maybe the Braves will help us out with some activity in the near future.
There we go. I'm sure Alex is listening to an hour plus podcast about Hello, Alex. Open invite. Come on the show. But as always, a big thank you to everybody for checking this out. It's not often that we do hour plus shows in the middle of the off season when we had quite literally no news to talk about, but we try to create content. We try to give you guys something not only to listen to, but then have discussions with us on YouTube comments and tweet us and all that good stuff. And hopefully in the next days, weeks, whatever it is, we'll get one of these pitchers added, which would be a big time boost for this team. And I mean, if they had somebody good, Brad, this could be on paper a top 3 rotation in the game. I mean, it could be really fun to watch this team throw the ball every night.
Yeah, if they get Chris Bassett, look out, baby. I'm just kidding. Just try to troll you at the end of the podcast. Please subscribe, everybody, to Hammer Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. Check out the whole network too. Foul Territory does great shows. Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal, who I can't believe is a colleague of ours, but that's a real thing that happens. Sorry, Ken, for embarrassing you. Please subscribe to the podcast. YouTube, especially if you're an audio listener, just smash the subscribe button on YouTube. Takes 2 seconds, and vice versa. Helps support the show. Ratings, reviews, comments, Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those fun things. We appreciate you listening to the podcast as always. We'll have more to come later on this week, and we'll see you all next time.